Hello everyone, happy Saturday to you guys. Can you believe we are in the month of March? I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. It is me, RK, and I am here with Sacred Para Playland. Actually, it's Sacred Para Playland. For anyone who would like to know, you may have noticed that the name has changed. I have gone through some different things in my own personal journey as far as being a member of our amazing Instagram, and just really did feel this unction. And I kind of almost have to a certain degree, blame my inspiration from Coachella, because she has phenomenal content. And I was listening to her, and she was just talking about, like, you know, if you want to start again, if you want to change things up. And I know that you guys have heard me talk about, you know, changing up things in your storyline, do it at your discretion. And yet there was still, for me personally, this limiting fear of, if I change the name, will people still recognize that it's me? And I didn't do it. But then I listened to her content, I listened to her lives, and I was like, oh my gosh, I am so inspired right now to change the name. It's something I had talked about previously. I had chatted with my husband about it on different occasions. I had talked to my kids about it, and I was just like, I'm gonna do it. You know, it's what I'm about, it's what I talk about, it's what I've written books about. You know, and if you haven't picked up my book yet, go on Amazon, guys, and get it. Adult Play Therapy Devotional is a 60-day devotional. There's other writing tools that's on there as well. Check it out. Check it out. Get that. Hi, Coach Play. That's my husband. It's Coach Play with an I and not a Y. That's American Sign Language. Coach Play with an I. Go to his Instagram handle. He's on Instagram. He's on Facebook. He also has email. And talk to him. You can get all loads of information. He is available. Of course, you do have to pay, but he's available for coaching with nutrition, personal training, anything that you have that has to do with health and wellness and fitness. You need to contact him. So that's Coach Play with an I and not a Y. Okay, guys, let's get into it. So today we are talking about the amazing show, Still Magnolias, and that's actually a movie. The amazing movie, Still Magnolias. It is one of my favorites, and I am talking about the original. If you notice that my mini sheet is here, all for it. She's got her leg propped up. She's got her baby dog with her. She is ready for this conversation. Oh, thank you so much, King Emperor. I love you too. He's upstairs right now with all of our babies. I am so very grateful and thankful for him being able to hold it down so I can share with my IG family the different stories and lessons and tips and hacks of how to be able to play and play right. And it's just phenomenal. So I thank you for being my partner in crime. I don't want to say in crime, but just my partner, and just holding me down, and vice versa. So we are talking about Still Magnolias. I'm talking about the original movie. There's been tons and loads of different plays that have been done, of course, and there's even a remake of the movie with a completely diverse cast, as far as the cast is all Black American, whereas in the original we're looking at a white American cast. I am speaking of the original, though. It doesn't take away from the plays. It doesn't take away from the remake. I believe that all of those movies. Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for joining it, Dal Zinha. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate and value each one of those plays and the remake. But it's just something about the original. You know what I mean? It's just like having grandma's pie. Now, granted, I didn't get a chance to taste either one of my grandmother's pies because they lived in Detroit and I didn't live there. I'm from Detroit. I moved where I'm at right now at a young age, and then I spent a lot of different summers in Detroit. I got cold, so I had to put my hair back over. But I spent a lot of summers in Detroit. I just didn't have the type of grandmothers that make cakes and pies. They weren't, you know, they didn't have that southern twang. Both my grandmothers were from the South. But they, I would say, acculturated into the northern lifestyle and environment pretty well. So by the time that I was growing up, I didn't smell cookies in the house. I even wrote about that in elementary. Kids were talking about having cookies at their grandmother's house, and I was like, I missed out. But nonetheless, for those of you who were able to eat your grandma's pies and have the cookies and the cakes, it's just not the same whenever mom and aunt do it. It's not anything against mom and aunt. But just think grandma has that, she's been seasoned in it. She's a veteran in it. And she has the original recipe. Mom may have added a little bit more cinnamon. Aunt may have put a little bit more sugar. And it just doesn't taste the same like the original recipe. So I'm coming from the original recipe of the movie, Still Magnolias. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you for being here. All right, so we are going to do a character study about the diverse characters that they had in the Still Magnolia movies. Now, I know some of us are thinking in this modern day age, when I say diversity, and you look at the original cast of Still Magnolias, you're going, where's the diversity? I don't see any Black Americans. I don't see any Indigenous. I don't see any Mexicans. I don't see any Puerto Ricans. I don't see any, I don't see anyone else that is of a different race or nationality or creed, or that's Russian or that's German. Where are you getting this from when you say diversity, RK? All right, what I'm coming from is that each one of the characters that was presented to us on that screen are completely different from the other. There is no monotone, and I know that was incorrect grammar, but there is no monotone characters. There aren't two characters that you see that you go, Lynn, Ma Lynn, and, Clary seem to be pretty much the same, just two different looking people. Thank you so much for joining. That's not the case when we look at Still Magnolias. Each one of these characters were designed specifically different. So when we talk about diverse character study of the movie Still Magnolias, the original, it's one that causes us to view each character as individual people with their specific character flaws, uniqueness, and personalities. Hello, dear, to you too. Thank you so much for joining. And if you will notice, I do want to bring attention to this before I dive even deeper into this character study. And I'm hoping I get it all done, because this is a lot of pages of notes. And I even borrowed my daughter's notes, because we do character studies in our household, as you know, I homeschool. So it's a lot to get through. But nonetheless, if we don't get done with it, we'll have a part 2. I love a part 2. But as you notice today, I am makeup free. And you'll probably be noticing that I'm going to be makeup free until I get some non-mica makeup, some Lush brand or another brand that is non-mica. I've been studying up on it to see what's out there. It's just really, really difficult for me to put on my makeup knowing that the mica is something that's being mined by young children who are literally being injured and dying, who are suffering different illnesses because they're, working without any shoes on, and they're mining in order to get this ingredient that is fundamental in almost all types and forms of makeup. So I'm going makeup free. That's just where I'm at with it. So we're going on natural beauty today, and until, assist gets makeup, and I just get makeup really to play. We're talking about play therapy anyways. You look beautiful without it. Mwah! Thank you. I appreciate it. That's what my hubby says. So I was like, I'm going to follow his advice. I appreciate it. So movie analysis of Still Magnolias. We're going to dig deep, guys. I hope you're ready. All right, let's go into the very beginning. And I want to put out a disclaimer that I'm assuming that we've all seen the original. If you haven't, be ready for a lot of spoiler alerts. But maybe those spoiler alerts will kind of get you like, hey, I got to see what this is. All right, let's go. In the very beginning of the movie, Princess and Spider, thank you for joining. In the very beginning of the movie, we hear gunshots. It's like boom, boom, boom. And we see our character, Malin, right? She's kind of going crazy. She's trying to do all these preparations for her daughter's wedding. And really at the time, we don't even know for sure it's for her daughter until Shelby comes gliding down those steps, right? And she's talking to her mom about her nail color and all this other stuff, because as a bride, you're in your princess mode. You're not really thinking about everything else. She doesn't even really hear the gunshots. But for mom, who's hypersensitive at the time, the gunshots are just really, really getting to her. And I love that there's this chaos, and there seems to be this uproar that's going on internally due to an external factor. The gunshots, everyone's bustling around the kitchen and outside getting things prepared, and yet there's this internal conflict in Ma Lin, the mother, who's battling with hearing this noise while trying to make everything perfect for her daughter. And I love it too because, as you guys know, I'm a black and white fanatic. I love me some 1950s. I'll go 1930s. I'll go to the silent films. I love me some Charlie Chaplin. I love me some Laurel and Hardy, okay? I love these things. I'm a movie buff. So I saw this and immediately my mind went 1952 classic, and I do believe I have the year right, of The Bad Seed. Because on this movie, we see the mother. She's going hysterical. There's little Roy who, manages the landscape and everything, like janitorial duties of this apartment complex, or I should say, what would it be more like? Someone wants to move into a condo. So it's kind of like a condo complex, and he manages the grounds there. And Rhoda has set the man aflame, and he's outside and he's screaming, right? And we don't see it, but we can hear him screaming, and so you visualize it, and the mom is just going crazy, and she's like, oh my God, I know she did it. And then you have, Mrs. Breedlove, and she's like, what are you talking about? And she's the neighbor who simply adores Rhoda. And Rhoda is in the background, guys, in a room that is shut off because the door is closed. And she's playing on the piano, and she's playing the tune of Ode to Joy, which I played when I was in band. And she's playing it, and she's going faster and faster and faster. And the more that she's hitting these keys and going faster, you just see her mom going berserk. Her mom's like, make her turn it off. So when I saw this on the movie of Still Magnolias, my immediate thought was just the sensitivity, the heightened sensitivity of a mother is just very unique and very different. So I love the contrast. There was this contrast, the making things perfect and the preparation of such a beautiful wedding ceremony, and yet these violent sounds of the gunshot. We never do see him shooting it off at this particular time. When it's the dad, he's shooting it off to scare off the birds, so that when we learn later on, because we don't know why then, we're like, what the? He's doing it to keep the birds away while they have the outdoor ceremony. And then I thought about it. I was like, that does kind of make sense. No one wants to get poop on them before and during a wedding. It makes sense. But it was comical genius. And I'm about to get my notes. I dropped them. And yet this dichotomy of contrast. It's really funny, and I still can't understand why it wasn't a success in France. There's so many Americans loving this movie. Yes, I fully agree with you. So we're going to keep on going. Okay, so we see the mother having her breakdown, and like I said, I associate that with The Bad Seed. Another point, there is a sense of mystery with the introduction of each character. I love how they do this. You have the groom who comes through the window, and you're going, oh my God, what is going on here? Who is this guy? He comes through the movie. He greets her. She's in the tub. And you're kind of like, are you having an affair? Like, what's going on? And then he's like, just tell me you're going to marry me. And it's like, okay, but I thought you guys were getting married. Like, what's going on with all the wedding preparation downstairs for the reception? And you're asking her to marry you. We have the introduction of a woman that comes to work at the salon, and it's very obvious the woman has a past. You don't know anything about her past. You meet Weezer, and you're like, why is this woman so grumpy? Why is she so cranky? Why is she so mean? What has made her this way? Like, this introduction of mysterious characters, to me, is very intriguing, and it makes you want to watch the movie even more. And of course, we end up learning as we watch the movie why the groom asked her again about marrying him. We find out why Weezer was the way that she was, and we even find out things about this mystery woman who comes to work at the salon, whose name happens to be Annelle. All right, so I have to write down the name so I can make sure that I stay on task. All right. You can show a change in your character. So for those of us who are writing scripts, who write for Dowstagram right now, like myself, or you write a book, you're a writer, you're writing a book, you're an indie author, you're a published author, whatever the case may be, you can show change in your characters without even having to announce it. Just having us visually see it. That's the beautiful craft and wonder about visual arts. Now, when we talk about movies, we talk about plays, anything of that nature, and we talk about this wonderful movie, Still Magnolias, we notice, if we're all paying attention, that Clarice has a man. Did you notice that? Did you notice that? So there's some time that lapsed after the wedding, and we can all assume that it may be about 8 months or so. My kids and I, we were trying to figure out how long it was. We're like, oh, I think it was about this time because now it's Christmas. And during that particular Christmas scene, you will notice that Clarice has a new guy. And the guy, she's walking and she's talking about, honey, I own it. Talking about owning this radio station. I love the Southern twang. That she owns this radio station. And there's a man who's walking alongside of her. And just like in your own natural interactions, or I should say interactions, there we go, interactions with other people. If I'm talking to someone, my husband may walk a little bit further up, or if my husband's talking to someone, I may walk a little bit further up. And we see that during that scene, that he walks a little bit further up, but he waits for her. And then I think he even says her name, Clary, and then she walks, to catch up with him, to follow him, and then they walk alongside each other, which showed that, because remember earlier in the film she had said that she wasn't going to get involved with anyone after the death of her husband, and Shelby was like, you're still, you still got time, you can get with someone. And so we see that things have changed for her and that she's with someone. Was this going to be a man that she marries or has a long-term relationship with? I don't know, it's not said, but we're able to see the change without it having to be directly stated. So this is something that we can pick up on even whenever we're writing scripts, when we have actors, when we have characters. And I believe it works better for visual arts than what it would for us writing a book, because you almost really have to, because you're taking your audience by the hand and guiding them. So you really have to have them see it and you have to say, like, Clary has a new guy in her life, and give some type of detail in that. But when we talk about movies, we talk about shows, we talk about series, we talk about plays, you can show it without saying it. I love it. All right, now another point, like I said, there's a lot of points. I'm not gonna be able to elaborate as much as I want, because I want these points to really stand out on their own. I love the Southern twang and the Southern slang. Anytime whenever we deal with other cultures, there I go, I'm going to explain it. Just when I wasn't. Anytime we're dealing with other cultures, it's important for us to realize and to honor and respect and value the cultures that we are writing about, guys. When you're writing about a Southern culture, such as with Still Magnolias, you want to keep it authentic. It should be to the point where someone who is from that same city, that same town, or a similar town, if you made a fictional town, they should be able to see themselves. They should be able to see their family members. They should be able to see their friends. They should be able to see their worst enemy and be like, I know someone like that. Oh, I've heard that slang before. I've got more money than God. That's what Weezer said. And my kids, of course, they were like, oh, how could you say that? I was like, it's just a statement, We're dealing with the Bible Belt state and a Bible Belt town. And they didn't have to tell you. They didn't have to say, this is a Bible Belt town, where all the statements that you hear are going to be things that happen to be Southern based and biblical bases. They're not going to say it's biblical references, because they're keeping it authentic. We have literally been given an opportunity in this movie to be that peeping eye in order to see what is going on in this town where it's still Magnolias, right? So they're not going to tell us stuff. Their life is just moving on and we're peeping in, right? So a lot of the slang that they used was biblically referenced, and I love it. I love it. So whenever you're writing about a culture, make sure that you keep it authentic to the culture that you are referencing. All right, the gunshots do run off the birds. And now I'm going to talk to you guys about the movie of contrast. I couldn't read my little heading. I'm sorry. Movie of contrast. I got a lot of notes on here, okay? So I missed that little part. It is a movie of contrast. You have the gunshots that run off the birds, and yet it's driving the women crazy. The women being, of course, the mom. Weezer comes over with her dog. She says, my damn dog's hair is falling out, right? Yeah, it's very difficult to do. Yes, so, you have these two contrasts. The gunshots that run off the birds, something that's very necessary. And yet, in the same hand, not everybody's happy, because it's causing a lot of anguish with certain women. The men that celebrate when they find out that Shelby is pregnant. He's like, I'm going to be a grandpa. And the men are just clapping and they're excited. And yet you don't see them, you hear them, because the focus is on the women. And the women are somber. At first they're kind of like, oh, you're going to be a grandmother. But then they notice that Ma Lynn, who happens to be played by the amazing Sally Field, who I love as much as like Michelle Pfeiffer and Elizabeth Taylor and, oh my gosh, Dorothy Dandridge. And I mean, like, I have a whole lot of actresses and stuff that I love. But Sally Field is amazing to me. I simply adore almost any movie that she's in. But she looked very somber. And so now all the women are kind of gathering around her to encourage her and to lift up her spirits. And, you know, we find out that, you know, she's really concerned about her daughter's health. You know, this whole movie beginning part was built up on this premise of, I don't want Shelby to have a family. I don't want her. And don't get me wrong, when a woman and a man come together as husband and wife, you do become family. I fully understand that. And I don't believe that there's any difference between that. But she doesn't want her to expand her family. Okay. And that's just because she's a mom and she's really, really interested in the life of her daughter. That's okay, Princess and Spider. I thank you for joining me. She said, I got to take my train. Can't wait to see the replay. I can't wait for you to see the replay too. And just leave a comment down at the bottom when you see it, okay? So thank you for joining me, and you have a very safe train. Thank you. All right, so she's just really concerned about her daughter, and so the women gather around her in order to build this sisterhood and this bond. And I really do love the impact and the importance and focus of the movie on sisterhood and womanhood. It is so beautiful. It inspired me to be like, I gotta watch the Joy Luck Club again because I haven't seen it in a while, and even Fried Green Tomatoes, but definitely Joy Luck Club, because that movie is about sisterhood and womanhood and sharing these uncomfortable, vulnerable storylines that really did, you know, describe life as a woman. And that's what we see right here with Still Magnolias. I love that they use the tool of fast forwarding time. This movie is all about things moving forward and life goes on. That was one of the things that we hear Sally Field's character, Madeline, say towards the end of the movie. She's like, life goes on. This movie is about fast forwarding time. I'm sorry, when you talk a whole lot, you get kind of caught up in here. Forgive me. All right. So, I should have used the little sipper part. All right, like, no, you open it and just sip from it. It wouldn't have happened that way. Anyways, we're all family. It happens. They use the tool of fast forwarding. They let the audience figure out the lapse of time themselves. So we as the audience have to figure it out versus it being written on the screen like 8 months has gone by, a year later, 2 weeks later, 4 months later. They don't do that. They're just like, you're going to figure it out on your own. And it's in a very unique way that they do that. And I did make a point of it, and I don't really know where exactly the point is, so I'm going to bring it up right now. They use holiday decorations. I thought that was genius. They use the holiday decorations to denote to the audience what time it is, like what time frame that they're talking about. I was like, that is so genius. So instead of writing 8 months has passed, they're just like, it's Christmas time. It's 4th of July. You have the scene where she does the pregnancy announcement and she's like, well, the baby's coming in July. So then we see them celebrating his 1-year birthday and they get the fireworks, it's the 4th of July cake. They use holiday decorations to let us know the time that has lapsed. Absolute genius. I love it. And then it allows your audience to be the mature audience to figure it out themselves. I also love the salon gossip, right? So for any of us who've ever gotten our hair done, right? Prior to locks, I used to go to the salon, and there's many of us who have locks that still goes to the salon. I just choose to do mine at home. It's just a personal choice. Just like if someone has their hair, with the free flow of hair, a free flow of tresses, you may, decide to do your hair at home. It's completely up to you. But I do love the concept and idea of salon gossip. If you've ever seen movies such as The Barbershop, The Beauty Shop, Beauty Salon, or is it Beauty Shop? I think it's Beauty Shop with Queen Latifah, and then you got The Barbershop with Ice Cube. And The Beauty Shop was like a spin-off movie from The Barbershop 1 and 2. you know, they had this gossip that's going on throughout, you know, people talking and ranting and, you know, and just coming out with all their different ideas and concepts and complaints and, you know, gossiping on other people and what their life is like. I see this in the original Still Magnolias. Now, some of us may say that it was an idea that may have been snagged from Still Magnolias, and some of us may just say, hey, that's just what happens in salon and barbershops. You're going to get gossip, and that's true. You're going to get that gossip if you're in the salon. You're going to get that gossip if you're in the barbershop. Just honest. And I love that they kept that true and they kept that authentic. Another strong point that came from the movie Still Magnolias was women drawing strength from the bonds of their relationships and from the bonds of their friendships. I love it. I'm here for it. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was awesome. I also saw this drawing of strength in the relationship between Shelby and her mom. Now, as many of you know, I am a huge fanatic, I want to say. Hi, Catherine CPI. How are you? So good to see you on here. I want to say I'm a huge fanatic about mom and daughter storylines. It's really of interest to me in my personal life and just in my storylines, and when I read other people's storylines, if they have it in there, like I think I read it like a little bit more intensely because it's just a personal interest of mine that one can come from their mom and have such contrasting personality, and then one can come from their mom and have such similarities, and one could come from their mom and have a very tight relationship, and one could come from their mom and be so separate in relationship, and then moms who are smothering and moms who are just neglectful and moms who could be smothering and neglectful simultaneously. It's just a very interesting dynamic to me. It's just very much. So I looked at Shelby and her mom, and they fuss and they feud and they have these differences of opinion, but yet they both draw strength from each other. And you really do see Shelby needing her mom's approval, even when it comes to having her hair down for the wedding. Her mom's like, no, I thought we agreed on your hair being up because it, you know, is more accentuating for the veil. And she's like, you know, Jackson likes my hair down. I'm going to have my hair down. But there's still this little tiny bit of, I need you to agree. I need you to be okay with it. We also see her needing her mom's approval even more than anything when she says that she's pregnant. She's like, I really need you to be happy for me. And her mom wouldn't give it to her. We see her needing her mom's approval for her haircut when she decides to cut off all that hair of hers. And she's kind of going through an anxiety attack, and then she connects with her mom and she makes eye contact with her and she just calms down. And I was like, wow, I know that look only because, like, for me, it may not be a mom and daughter situation, but I've definitely had some anxiety on several of my birthings, you know, giving birth, having delivery. We have 10 kids, my husband and I, and each one of the deliveries, I was definitely nervous. I had different things that happened where I had to have like an oxygen mask on, or, you know, turn over from this side and turn over to this side, and, you know, checking for dilation and epidurals and all that stuff. All that fun stuff can definitely make your levels of anxiety rise. And I would be kind of, you know, going through it, breathing a little bit more faster and working myself up because of what was going on. And I would connect with my husband. He was like, calm down, everything's all right. And I would connect with them visually and just really feel that calm that takes over. So when I saw her connect with her mom, I was like, I know that. And then, you know, like being a kid and stuff and having things happen, you know, and running to my mom and just needing my mom to validate what I was feeling. So I saw that with Shelby. She was like, I need you to approve. I need you to help calm me down. So they were drawing strength. They were drawing energy from each other. The Lori Lee Barbie says, now you've given me an idea about my character at the moment and showing her mom and their relationship. Woohoo! I'm excited. This is great. I'm glad to hear it. I will definitely be checking out that storyline. Like I said, it's just a personal interest of mine to see that dynamic. And so when I saw that there, I was like, wow, that is so just awesome. All right, I think I'm going to have a part 2. So let's talk about Weezer. Weezer says a statement. She's like, don't ask me why. I don't make up the rules. And she was talking about being a woman they were referencing about her growing tomatoes, which she doesn't like doing, and other things that she really doesn't like doing, but she does it because she's like, I'm a woman, I'm supposed to do it, especially in the Southern culture. This is what society deems a woman to do. Don't ask me why, I don't make up the rules. And I believe a lot of us fit into this, regardless of what culture that we hail from, that we come from. And I say hail, H-A-I-L, but as far as like where we come from different cultures that has stigmas and stereotypes of what a woman is supposed to do. And there's certain things that we do because we feel like we're supposed to. We wear pantyhose with our dress because they say we're supposed to. We wear our makeup and our Sunday's best because they say we're supposed to. They say don't cuss, so we don't because we're not supposed to do that. They say that you're supposed to learn how to make an awesome, amazing lemon pound cake, and so we practice and practice most of our 20s and 30s, especially 30s and 40s, in order to make this amazing pound cake by the time that we're 76. So I believe that there's a lot of different things that we do. Hi, niece. That's Alexis Love 95. Mwah. She just had a beautiful baby girl, my grandniece, and I'm so excited. And you are on here, and I'm so glad that you are. So yes, exactly, the lordly Barbie. There's so many things that we do in our culture that we don't want to do, but we feel that we have to do because we don't make up the rules. And we're a woman, and they say, hey, you're supposed to cook, you're supposed to clean, you're supposed to change the diapers all the time, you're supposed to do this. And so we do it. We say, don't question it, just do it. But what if you did question it? And that's what I love about this movie, is that it does draw those questions out of us. Like, what would happen if we did question it? What would happen if we did go against the odds? What would happen if someone like Claire Reed buys the radio station, although the men handle all the business? I love it. All right, next point. We witnessed Shelby and her mother get closer throughout the movie, and especially following the birth of Jack Jr. We see, and that's Marlene's grandson, Jack Jr. We see them get closer. And this is especially seen at the salon when they confess to all the other women that they're going to be going through a kidney transplant the next day. But you see this eye connection. This movie, and I have a point on here about that, is all about the eyes and the face. They're not just acting by what they say. They're not just acting in how their body is moving. They're acting through their eyes. They're acting through their face. So if somebody's somber or sad, and I'll give you an example, when we see the salon scene in the very first part of that movie, and you hear Shelby, and she's talking about how she just wants to grow old and sit on the porch with her husband and have their children and all this stuff, all this beautiful stuff, and the camera just goes right over there to Sally Field, and that's Marlene, her mom. Her face is just sad. And our 4-year-old daughter saw it because I first saw this movie with my girls, part of the movie, and then the next day saw it with my boys and my girls. And when I saw it with my girls, my 4-year-old immediately was like, she looks sad. And she did look sad because for her, which we later find out, her mind was like, I don't know if my daughter can have that. Yeah, that's what you want, but medically, you can't have that. Medically, if you try to go for that, you could die. So you see that on the face. Like I said, Sally Field is an amazing actress. My aunt just logged on here. Thank you so much for joining. That's my Aunt Etna. Love you. So glad that you're on here. My aunt, it can be a true testament to the acting chops of Sally Field. As well as my mother was on here, she would too. True acting chop of Sally Field. I'm telling you, from The Flying Nun, Forrest Gump, Not Without My Child, Sybil, Mrs. Doubtfire, Soap Dish, Eye for an Eye, the list goes on and on. Those are just like some of my top faves of Sally Field. I watched Not Without My Child like so many times over the summer with my aunt. It was incredible. The movie Sybil gave me this introduction into what psychology would be like. And I believe that that had a lot to do with me majoring and graduating and getting a degree in psychology, because that movie was so intense and Sally Field played it so well. Sybil has to do with having, they don't call it multiple personalities anymore, dissociative personality disorder. And I'm telling you, she did such an awesome and amazing job with it that you really did see the distinction of each and every personality. that she presented on that screen, and it was based off of a true movie. It was so good, and just, she's a gut-wrenching actress, isn't she? Like, she knows how to just dig deep into the movie and become that role. And of course, I love her too on Spider-Man. I didn't get a chance to list this on here, but she is the true Aunt May. I'm a Marvel fanatic, my whole household is, but she was the best Aunt May. No offense to anybody else. Sorry, Marissa Tomei and anyone else. You guys did great, but she was the best. And I think that you guys would agree, because Sally Field is Sally Field. You know, she's just a great actress. So, great actress. There's a lot of acting with the eyes and the face. We also even see this with Julia Roberts. Julia Roberts' eyes and face tell so much. Like I said, with the part with the haircut, her face just goes into like complete like shock and anxiety. Oh my God, let's go to the part when she's having the diabetic seizure. Like, she was so committed to that scene. I think I went back about 3 or 4 times with my kids on that part, because she was so intense. And, you know, the way that she pushed the hand away of Dolly Parton, who's Truvy, you know, and then she didn't want her mom to give her the juice. And you see that battle, that intense battle of mother and daughter, still when she needs her mom the most, still being relevant, because her mom was kind of smothering her, and she was like, I don't need you doing that. And then she, you know, takes in the juice, and you see her start to calm down, and you see her go from this very confident and spunky and jubilant character to going through that intense crisis, to then going into this like very humble response in which she says, I'm sorry. And it wasn't just the quietness of the I'm sorry, but the face. Her whole face and eyes changed. And she even kept her arms up here. And that's why I'm so connected. I think just that scene alone connected me so much with the original Still Magnolias. And like I said, it's nothing against the other plays. It's nothing against the remake. But when I look at the remake, especially at that scene, and I did see the remake, where she has that seizure, I felt like maybe the actress didn't commit as much, because she kind of, you know, went in and then she went out, and I didn't really see, and everyone's different, okay? I know I have high expectations, but I really didn't see her face, you know, contour, and I didn't see the eyes go from being really, you know, wild to just soft and red and glassy. I didn't see that, and I saw her kind of just snap out of it. But with Julia Roberts in that scene, I think that was one of Julia Roberts' best movie roles. Some people may say Pretty Woman, some people may say Not Without the Enemy, which was a very good movie. Pretty Woman was good, it just wasn't for me. Pelican Brief, another really good movie. She's a good actress. But I really loved her in that scene. That scene was just phenomenal, because she went from, like I said, this very confident character to just being like, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that you had to experience that. I'm sorry that I just went through that. I'm sorry. But it was like, you don't have to be sorry. This is a medical situation that you have. So I loved it. I loved it. The Lordly Barbie said, I'm trying to write a story about apartheid and the difference in cultural backgrounds of the characters who are thrown together by day-to-day life, and then find that they have a lot in common. Oh, that's a good one, despite their different backgrounds. Lordly Barbie, you guys are great going on. I'm gonna have to talk to you. I just want to just hear it. Like, it's so great. Like, I love it. More than anything, though, I can't wait to see it. I don't know if you're going to be doing this on the Doll platform and just, like, experimenting. I'm looking forward to the book that you write about this. This is her idea. No one else get it. It's copywritten, The Lordly Barbie. And I am looking forward to reading it through Instagram as well as your published book. Great. I love it. I love it. So, going back to here, and we talk about Instagram, we talk about being able to act with your eyes in your face. And the thing is, you said, and it's so difficult, and really talking about Instagram and being able to act with eyes and face with your inanimate dolls, even though we're giving them a personality, and we're giving them life, and we're giving them a backstory, and we're giving them, you know, aspirations and personality traits. it's still really hard to get them to act with their face. And I understand we have Face App, and I love Face App. I don't use it. I love and appreciate it, though. I don't use it mainly because I don't have the time. I'm already having difficulties editing my pictures as it is, as far as time-wise, because I homeschool and we got our 10 kids, and I cook from scratch. So I'm that kind of mom, and I'm that kind of wife. And I wake up early when my husband wakes up, and I, do coffee and all that other great stuff. And I love it. That's what I do. I don't have a problem doing it. But being able to apply Face App to the pictures that I'm already trying to just edit for color and saturation and all this other stuff and sharpness is just a little bit more than what I can handle right now on my plate. So, and I'm already, writing books whenever I have a chance to. And yeah, it's a little more than what I can, but I appreciate those who do Face App. But for those of us who may not have the time to do Face App, it's going to be a little bit harder to have your darling dolls be able to show their expression with their eyes and their face. So that is a challenge that we have with our inanimate tools compared to humans. All right, now there's another quote that I love on this movie. Perhaps I'm jealous because they all know how much they mean to each other. That was something that Dolly Parton's character Truvy says to her husband Spud. She says it to him while he's working on the car because the characters that happen to be in Ma Lynn's family, and we talk about Shelby, and we talk about Jackson, and we talk about Drum and their sons, they're very connected. They have a very tight relationship, whereas with Truvy, she's questioning if her husband loves her, because he's gone through a long stretch of not having a job. And we're talking about in the South, especially, and I can't really speak about other cultures, but just as far as the setting of this movie, in the South, a man is not a man without a job. A man is not a man if he can't feed his family. A man is not a man if his wife is the one bringing in the bacon. And so he just felt very despondent, very disconnected, very depressed in the beginning part of this movie because he wasn't a breadwinner. He wasn't bringing home the bread. He wasn't bringing home the bacon. He wasn't bringing home the money. And he was watching people get contracts all around him, and he wasn't getting the contracts, and I'm thinking he may have been like a builder or something of that nature, and he just wasn't getting those contracts to be able to take care of his family. But we do learn later on that he ended up working at an offshore oil rig, and you do see a difference that takes place. But yeah, she questioned, what is going on in my own family? I have a son that runs wild, and he, hooks up with rebellious women, and he himself is pretty rebellious, and he's here one minute, gone the next, and my husband and I aren't connected. And she just didn't really feel the same love that she saw in the relationship and the family relationship of Ma Lynn's family. If I can at least get to page 5, we'll be good. I love your input in my story, and I don't mind listening to the hard stuff. Let's do this. Let's do this. I appreciate you for valuing my opinion. I thank you. I appreciate it. I do. I really, really do. All right. So that was Truvy. They use the holiday decorations, like I said earlier, to tell you what month it is and how much length of time has gone by. I love it. I'm here for it. I think it was great how much time has gone by. Truvy's husband, played by Dolly Parton, his whole countenance changes, guys, after he starts work at an offshore oil rig 7 days a week. His whole countenance changes. He goes from being this person who's very depressed and very sad to just having more energy, and you just see it in his face. Again, we're talking about acting with the face and the eyes, and it's something that almost each actor in that movie had mastered. Hi, Imani's World 19. How are you doing? So good to see you. Shelby in a coma. So we're going to fast forward this dialogue and go to the part when Shelby is in a coma, which was a very hard spot for me to watch. I mean, that movie has always been a tearjerker for me, and I did get a chance to see some of you guys' comments, and I'm going to be commenting on those comments after this live video. But I did see some of you guys' comments. I believe there was this really sweet comment in which, because I talked about being a crier, and I cry on movies, and there was a sweet comment by House of Echelon in which she says that she cried on Cocaine Bear. And I was like, dude, I haven't seen the movie, but I'm telling you, I can cry almost on anything. Rocky, which Sylvester Stallone is a great writer and director, and we'll probably talk about that later. Like, are we becoming a movie review channel? I don't know. But it's all about play, right? Watching movies is playtime as well, okay? But yeah, you know, when I watched that part a long time ago and her, you know, going into the coma, when she was lifting up her baby, and you just know, you're like, oh, and then she has to put him down, and then of course when he comes in, I was like, Jackson, hurry up, and he gets, you know, to her, and you know, she's passed out. None of us know how long that's been going on. And of course there's like food on the stove, and I'm like, thank God the baby didn't get to the food on the stove, because I'm a mom. So I was like, oh my God, the baby could have touched the food could have dropped on the baby, and it would have been way worse. But it was already bad enough, you know what I mean? But then I have my kids, and I'm like, God, I don't want to be in that kind of situation, like, ever. So God, this movie hit me so much harder having my own little ones. Because, and there's a point I say later on, but just being completely honest, no parent ever wants to bury their babies, you know, no matter if they're a minute old or if they're 100 years old. In your mind, you know, and Sally Field said it so best. She's like, I was supposed to go first. I was prepared to go first. That's what we've said in our mind, gravity-wise. We're supposed to get old and die before our kids do. So when I saw her just, and I even got a little frustrated with Shelby this time, because when she was leaving from the hospital and she's putting on her coat, and you can tell because they're acting with their eyes and their face in this movie, and you see Julia Roberts' character Shelby kind of, her nerves, you know, just kind of shudder a bit. And that's when she asked her coworker to give her her purse, I believe. And I was like, why didn't you say something then? You were right there in the hospital. You could have been seen right then. And I admit, I got a little bit mad because I was like, for me, I saw Shelby as my own. I was like, I wouldn't want my girls to be in that kind of situation and not say anything when they could get help. So it was harder. It was harder watching it, guys. It was harder. So when we get to Shelby being in a coma, I thought they did a phenomenal job by having that corridor of the hospital be so quiet to where all you heard was the mother's heels, Marlene's heels. I was like, wow, that was phenomenal. That was such a great directorial decision to make, because I feel that we connected even more to that scene, just to be able to hear the, and it puts you there. And Sally Field has this determined look. You know, she's going to go there and save her daughter again. She was able to save her with juice before. She was able to save her with candy before. She was able to do this, but not this time. And I think as a parent, that is the most disparaging part of life at all, or as a partner, or a spouse, a mate. When you've been able to use home remedies. And we're talking about the South, right? Just like she said, should I call the doctor? When this first happened at the salon, you have a nail that's like, should I call the doctor? And they were like, no, you know, because we can use home remedies. And I think down South, home remedies is like key. And for once, the home remedy is not gonna do it. So that connected me even more with that scene. Now, I love the part when the doctor, as much I say love almost bittersweetly. Hi, Melco Jojo. Thank you for joining today. Melco Jojo _16 go. Thank you so much for joining. I enjoy the part to a certain degree as far as being a story writer. How about that? I like how they were able to use the doctor's specific words. They had the volume increase on specific words while he was whispering to Marlene and the dad, you know, and the rest of the family, the husband, as far as what was going on. You heard rejection of kidney and some other words that, you know, they purposely had increase. And I was like, wow, that was really, really genius, you know, to do. So I did like that. I am going to bounce a little bit. So I just want you to think about the whole film as an entirety. I love the use of mirrors and reflections in this movie. The mirror allowed you to be able to see the characters' reactions and responses. So even if you didn't see, you know, they used the one camera. And so when certain scenes may have been on Shelby, like when she was at the salon, you could see Marlene reflection in the mirror. Then you have Spud, and he's talking to his wife Truvy prior to going to the funeral, because at first he didn't attend any events. He was too down to really get outside of the house to do that. And now we see him going to the funeral. I told you I was going to be bouncing. So you're able to see Truvy in that mirror and see her response and see her reaction. And I love how they use that. I also love how the story shows the impact that one character makes on a whole town, on a whole community. One character. I think so often, and I feel like this, okay? So this is not me, you know, just pulling something out of the sky to try to relate to people. I think so often we can feel like, what does my life really matter? And not like on a suicide tip, just what is the purpose of who I am? Does my life make a difference to others? What I do, does it matter? Would people's life be different if I wasn't here? And like I said, it's not from a suicide tip, it's just from a thinking tip. Like, would people's life be different if I wasn't here? Would it be a better life? Would it be a worse life? What purpose am I serving? Who am I? What is my character role? And I think the beauty of playwriting, the beauty of writing scripts, is that you get to write the character's purpose and who the character is and who the character impacts in your storyline. But when you're living this in real life, IRL life, you don't know what your character's personal purpose is, or who you're impacting or not impacting, or who you're influencing. And that may have been the same with Shelby. I don't think that Shelby knew that she had such a strong impact on people. And the amount of people that she had brought together. Interesting, going down that road sometimes does help in writing too. I agree so much, Melco Jojo 16 Go. Yes, I agree. It does. We see that Anel, and I'm going to go to my character list. Anel was able to get with Sammy at the wedding because of Shelby inviting her to the wedding. We see Weezer hook up with the older guy that was who was a choir member at the church because of the hookup that Shelby gave. You see Clary get with someone based off of, Shelby saying, hey, you need to get that radio station. Hey, it's not too late for you to get with somebody. And, she just had such an optimistic view. And she affected so many people in such great ways. This one character, she gave Jackson a son. She gave Jackson a happier life. This one character. And I thought to myself, what do we do as one person? Oh, it's the film Still Magnolias, the original Still Magnolias. And I do have a flyer on my page. There's a virtual flyer, so you can check that out to see the cover of the actual film, so that you'll know which one I'm talking about. And if you haven't seen it, I am giving out spoiler alerts, but hopefully if you haven't seen it, it'll kind of pique your interest to see the movie. And if you have seen it, great, because then we can talk even more. So I love the movie. I want to talk about when creating diverse characters. And like I said, diverse character doesn't have everything to do about the skin. Great film. Yes, great film. Diverse characters does not have everything to do about the skin color. It doesn't have anything to do about ethnicity or creed or any of these things, as much as it does about creating characters that are completely separate from each other in personality and mindset and thought process and behaviors and attitudes. That's what creates a diverse character. And then when you add in religious beliefs, and when you add in different ethnicities, and when you add in culture, and when you add in race, you have an even more diverse character. You add in disabilities, all this other stuff, preferences, orientations, all this stuff, you have an even more diverse and complex character. So I love that. I love that. But when we talk about creating diverse characters and the type of characters, I think an easy thing to do if you feel kind of like stuck and you're going, how do I do this? Think of people you know, especially folks in your family. Think of how people are so much different than you. We have 10 kiddos, guys, with us every day, day and night, 24/7. Sometimes it feels like 36/7. Other times it feels like 13/7. It feels like it's just 13 or 11 hours of a day. Other times it feels like 37 hours of a day. I'm so serious. Like I've experienced 4 or 5 days in one day with my kiddos. I'm a homeschool mom. I feel it. So nonetheless, and I'm sure they feel it too, okay? But we all have different personalities. My personality is different than theirs. It doesn't mean that my personality is greater. It doesn't mean their personality is greater. We just have different personalities. It is funny. But we have different personalities, all 10 of us. And my husband, he has a different personality from me. So that makes 12 people in our household with different personalities, learning how to find a rhythm and coexist together. And we don't at all, you know, there's never been a time where we're like, okay, we're trying to coexist without killing each other. No. We actually do get along. Now, is it like fairy tale novels? No. And fairy tale's not always that great either. You know, it's always somebody who like there's not a mom in a lot of those stories, and people are trying to like go after each other. Oh, no. We don't want a fairy tale. But as far as just like, is it all whimsical? No, you know, our kids argue at times, and, you know, they have their little, you know, spats, and, but then they have these times that's just like so beautiful, you know, when that rhythm is found. So I love that. And you want to be able to have your characters have that diversity for them to own their own identity. I didn't write that, but I will listen to this or repeat myself so I can write it. Own their own identity. Own their own identity. That is what's going to create a diverse character for you. Hi, Purple Counselor. How are you doing? Nice to see you on here. So we journey, and we're talking about the movie Still Magnolias. We journey with characters such as Shelby, who is our protagonist. We journey with her from her wedding day. We hear tales of her recital dinner and the bridal shower. We journey with her through the pregnancy announcement, and we're with her all the way to her death. And then we're even with her beyond, where we get the reactions of those closely affected and grieving, especially her mom. And I want to say right here, I'm doing good, lady. Thank you for asking me, Purple Counselor. Thank you so much. How are you? How are you doing? I'm doing good. Thank you so much. I had to say, good point. Yes. So we journey with her through that. And I do want to make the point that I don't believe that it wasn't so much that the dad wasn't grieving. I don't think that it wasn't that Jackson wasn't grieving. I don't think that it wasn't that the brothers weren't grieving. It's just that this movie was about womanhood and sisterhood. And so that's really where the focus was. Should they have drawn in the response and reaction of the dad? They could have, but I don't think it would have been as intense for us. You know, that you have to think of who their audience was and who their audience still is. They wanted us to get this bird's eye viewpoint of these women coming together and becoming each other's strength. And to add the men in, and it's no offense at all, I think it would have diluted it. Because then we would have been grieving with parents and not just grieving Shelby and the impact of what it had on this mother-daughter relationship. And it wasn't a Mel story. Thank you, Melco Jojo16Go. You're right. It was not a Mel story. This was a story about the women and what they were experiencing and what they were feeling. And like I said, it doesn't take away from the emotions of what the men had. But when we look at the factor being that this was something that happened and took place down south, and we're talking about like deep down south in the States, stereotypically, the men are not supposed to be expressive and affectionate. They're not supposed to be emotional. That would be something that the women do. It's not something that the men do. The men are supposed to be brick and strong, right? And like I said, this is stereotypical. It's not something that I would say that men are. That's not my personal belief. But this is something that the movie was, just drawing on for us to really assume as far as understanding the culture of down south. All right. So we look at this being a Bible Belt Southern state, and that's why we hear a lot of Southern slang. That's why we hear a lot of biblical references, and I did talk about that a little bit earlier. Let's go to the aftermath. So, of course, there's the hospital, and now we have the aftermath of the hospital, and the aftermath of the funeral, and that hit me hard. It hit me hard. And Malcolm Jojo said it's in the title. My Aunt Edna said this is a great movie about friendship between women. Yes, it really, really is. It's such a great movie. And you need to get on your sister and my mom about watching the movie because she doesn't want to watch it, and she needs to get she needs to get it in her. She needs to get in touch with those tears and emotions. Oh, goodness. Because I told our girls, I was like, yeah, I've been wanting to watch this movie. My mom won't watch it. And I know she wants to. So I watched it with, the first half with the girls. And then the next day I watched it with your great nieces and great nephews. And they love the movie. And, of course, I had the waterworks and the kids, were doing their thing as well. It's such a good movie. So definitely, she'll listen to you. So tell her. She'll listen to you. I told her watch it. I don't know if she watched it yet. All right. That just comes from a lot of talking. So we're going to get this done. Like I said, if I can get to page 5, then we'll do the second part later. I'll be good. And I am on page 5. This part was so interesting to me, though. Malin says, and this is her quote, "Drum left. He couldn't take it. Jackson left. I find it amazing. Men are supposed to be made of steel or something." My voice went out. Men are supposed to be made of steel or something. I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, guys, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Because I'm watching it with my kids. And it amazed me because there goes the title. And I love watching a movie or hearing a song, and somewhere in there, you hear the title. I was like, oh, wow, because it gave an explanation. It gave an explanation that the men are supposed to be made of steel. And here it is. We as the women are holding it down. This is not a feminist conversation. This is just me reviewing this movie. So in case anybody, sees this now or sees it later and they're like, okay, this feels so feminist. It's not that. I'm not saying like women are greater than men. I think I have something in my eye. I'm not saying women are greater than men or men are greater than women. It's not that at all. Just honestly. But I love that quote. And I love it as far as when we look at the culture of Southern men and Southern women, that men in the Southern culture are supposed to be so brisk and burly and, a man's man, as they say. And they're supposed to hold it all together and be capable. And yet these women were the strength. And they were holding it down. The Lordly Barbie laughed out loud. But before I go to my next portion of talking about this quote, I will say something that really aggravated me during this funeral. And I expressed it to my kids. Like, I expressed it so much that I paused the movie to express it. As many of you know, I am a lover and believer of Christ. That's who I am. And I'm not going to push Christ on anyone. I feel like it's an open invitation for anyone. This is just who I am. And I've seen him work wonders in my life and just continue to do wonders in my life. And continue to make me over from who I used to be in good and great ways. And I'm not just talking about like, oh, when I used to be out in them streets and I used to do this. I'm just saying like overall, giving me strength to be able to face a new day. That's me. But one of the things that just pissed me off in this film was a nail. A nail really just like she ticked my nerves. She ticked my nerves real bad because she had the audacity to come up to Ma Lynn and just tell her how Shelby's in a better place. And that Shelby, fought the good fight and that she did everything that she could and her body just couldn't take it anymore. And that I just feel so much better now knowing that she's up there fighting for me, that she's with me. And, I just want to say that I hope that you feel the same. I was pissed. I clicked that. I paused the movie and I was like, don't do that. Don't do that. Whatever you can do, please don't do that. Now everybody may agree with me, and that's okay. That's okay. But I'm going to tell you why I say that. I say that because I've had several different family members depart from this earthen realm, transcend. My husband's had many family members to depart and transcend. And I don't care if it's been 2 months, 2 years, 15 years. It hurts not having their presence here. That's just the bottom line. And you think in your mind, you go, man, if they were here, like I had someone, two people that I really did consider like brothers to me. And I was like, man, if they were here, my kids would have someone that was like an uncle to them. You know what I mean? So someone can say to you like, oh, they're in a better place. And oh, this and that. We technically don't really know the afterlife fully. And that's like a whole nother conversation for another day between you and I. That's what my dad used to always say. He's like, that's another conversation for another day. I still miss my dad to this day. So when people say like, oh, this person's in a better place, even though you may understand that they were suffering and that they were sick, you still want them here with you. And I believe that we, thank you, who live and bleed and love God can be overzealous at times like Anel. And we can come up to people and tell them our personal views and how we think that they're in a better place and you need to be okay with it because God's got them and they're here with you still. And we feel like it's true encouragement. And I'm not trying to stop you. If that's what you do, you go up to people, you let them know that, that's fine. I'm just telling you, being on the receiving end of it, it doesn't always feel good. It doesn't always feel good having someone tell me that they're in a better place. Because, and that's why, now let's get to that part. Thank you, sweetie. The part, and I love Sally Field for this. She gave the most phenomenal, most accurate, emotional outbursts that a mom or even a dad or anyone can have in a time such as that. She's like I said, she's a phenomenal actress, but she just dug so deep, and I believe that's another reason why for me I can't really connect with the remake. I love Queen Latifah. I just didn't feel like she connected with that role. I am so sorry, guys. Sheesh. Okay, I am so sorry. It's just that movie does. It's that movie hits hard. Just talking about it hits hard. My counselor said, this is what people do. I saw it and was like, what? But it is better to say nothing. Exactly, agreed. But there is always one in the group. That's what Iana said. The Lori Barbie said, agreed. Unicorn Moon, how are you, girl? We're talking about Still Magnolias. We're on the funeral scene right here. We're talking about Anel. Like I said, I can't tell you what to do. I feel like everybody has their own, personal, I'll take it. Thank you, sweetie. Their own personal concept of how to encourage someone. But y'all may need this up here. Take it. Thank you. I still got some toilet paper right here, sweetie. Thank you. That's our oldest son, our 14-year-old, trying to be here for me. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I can't say trying. He is being here for me. Thank you. But I can't tell you what to do if that's how you encourage people. And if it works, great. I just know being on the receiving end of it, especially when it comes to someone who has lost a child, and in their mind and their heart, they said we're going to grow old and die before our kids do. I don't always feel like that's the best encouragement to give. So I love that they did include that in there because it did frustrate me. It did pee me off. And I did tell my kids, hey, don't do that. Listen, Let people speak. Let people grieve. Just sometimes be there for them. Be that sounding board. Just be there. Hold their hand. Rub their back. Give them the tissue. Don't touch them at all. You know, just go by what they're showing you. Because right now they just need to get it out. And then sometimes people don't need you to say anything. But I love that they did include that in there because, like Anna said, there's always one in the group, right? There's always that one person who feels like they got to give you their biblical intuition to help encourage you, and then automatically you should snap out of that grief and be like, I'm going to celebrate. And that's just not the case. That's not the case, you know? All right. I am a nerd, as many of you know, and I love being a nerd. I've told you on other lives that my mother called me an L7, and I would be like, L7 makes a rectangle, not a square. All right? And I don't mind. I love it. I love it. I love it. Raising our children to be nerds. It's just the best way to be. It's the best way to be. So I had to go to the dictionary, guys. I couldn't just watch Still Magnolias and not write down the word still and not write down the word magnolias, because we're dealing with the word still that is literally a material, right? And then a flower. Great talk, Melco Jojo 16 Go said, have to run. We'll catch more on the replay. Definitely, definitely. All right. Thank you so much for being with me too, Melco Jojo. All right. Definitions of still, as it was written on the cover. It states, still is a hard, strong, gray, or bluish gray alloy of iron with carbon and usually other elements used extensively as a structural and fabricating material. Still also means being mentally prepared to prepare oneself to do or to face something difficult. Still. Which was interesting to me because once again, in the southern state, in a culture where the men are burly and tough and strong and capable, and I'm talking stereotypically, of course, and the women are supposed to be soft and delicate as flowers, yet here it was that the women were stronger and tougher and more capable to handle the journey and obstacles of life and of living than the men were. And that's why she said that she found it amazing that the men were supposed to be made of steel or something. And here it was the women were gathered together and encouraging each other. And here it was that she was able to stay there in the hospital with her daughter after being taken off the life support. And the men had left. It just astounded me. So like I said, I had to look it up. I had to. Now, the thing about still is that I think it's a homophone. Is it called a homophone, guys? When like the word sounds the same, but it's spelled different?
I think so.
I think so. I think so. So homophone, when we look at this word still, when we look at it as the S-T-E-E-L, which is on the title, it also could sound like S-T-E-A-L. Still, which is to take another person's property without permission or legally right or without intending to return it. And I had to think about the very beginning of that film when we see Weezer come over. She's like, is that my magnolias? And she's talking about the magnolias that was in the pool. And the dad, right, drum, he's like, well, we haven't really decided on whose magnolias it is. And I love that because it's like, did he steal those magnolias? Are they rightfully their magnolias? So you still have that play on words. Another, you know, spelling of still is S-T-I-L-L. And the definition of that is not moving or making a sound. Deep silence or calm, stillness, an ordinary static photograph as opposed to a motion picture, especially a single shot from a movie, up to including the present of time mentioned, and then it goes on and on. And it says, make or become still or quiet. Now, what I love, thank you, Anna, she said great review. What I love about this is that when we see later on Shelby being in the coma, and then, of course, being taken off of life support, is that life was put on a standstill. There was quiet. Marlene even comments about the quietness and stillness of being with her daughter, both at birth and at death. And just how precious this creature was. It was an amazing contrast. We talked about the beauty of the contrast earlier, and that was one of those beauties of the contrast, and that the still was used in all three of those senses: the strength and yet also the stillness. So I loved it. I loved it. And magnolia, when we break that word down, magnolia is a tree or a shrub with a large, typically creamy pink, which happens to be Shelby's favorite color, creamy pink waxy flower. And magnolias are widely grown as an ornamental tree. And what I found so interesting about that was that Ma Lynn wanted Shelby to be like an ornament. And the reason why was on account of Shelby's health. So it wasn't like she wanted her to be an ornament because she's so, I think sometimes as mothers, especially whenever you get pageant babies and you put your baby in a pageant, Now I'm thinking of a character. It's like, we have a lot of little babies, but I digress. Little Chelsea babies. I'm like, I can put that in my storyline. But we think of those babies who are in pageants as being these little ornaments that the mom is, living vicariously through. And she wants her to be so pretty and so ornamented and not say anything and just be beautiful. And in this particular case, that wasn't really the situation that Marlene had. She wanted her daughter to be as an ornament because of her health. She didn't want her on her feet a lot. She didn't want her working. She didn't want her having to, expanding her family because she didn't want her daughter to die. She didn't want her to have health complications and she didn't want her to die. And different pronunciation though. American accent makes it sound similar. Oh, wow. Definitely send that to me. Send me a voice note so that I can hear the pronunciation of it. I would love to hear that. DM me a voice note so I can hear it. Please. Magnolias are widely known as ornamental trees. Okay, so magnolias. Let's talk about the symbolism of it. In the States, and I don't know about elsewhere, but here in the States, the magnolia tree symbolizes luck and stability. It's a staple in southern gardens, and it delights people with its flowers in the early to mid-spring. Now, of course, here in our mid-spring, it'd be a little bit upset because it's cold here right now. Or I should say in our early spring. Hopefully by our mid-spring, things are going to warm up. In the East, the white blooms of the magnolia represent nobility and purity, while many of its parts are used in traditional folk medicine. And I love this because my husband always calls me medicine. He's always called me that. He says I'm medicine to people. I'm medicine to him. And I think it's the sweetest compliment that anyone can ever give me. I really do appreciate it. And I find that Shelby was medicine to the people in her community. And I love that. Magnolias are believed to be the earliest known flowering plants with their fossils, guys. I just want to give you a little history dating back over 100 million years ago. Magnolia trees even existed, and this was like I was blown away. They existed before bees. They existed before bees, guys. So they rely on beetles for pollination. They don't rely on bees. They rely on beetles for pollination. And instead of nectar, the flowers produce large quantities of pollen that beetles use for food. I was like, wow. So I just want to throw a little history fact out there. And if anyone's wondering, what does a magnolia smell like? Well, it has a very sweet floral fragrance that's lightly fruity and is compared with the scent of champagne. It's fresh yet relaxing aroma makes it incredibly popular as an aromatherapy. And we did see that Shelby was extremely popular. We did see that when people around her, they felt refreshed, they felt relaxed. In Japanese culture, the Japanese culture, the flower symbolizes, let me go back. In Japanese flower symbolism, it is known as Hanakotoba. I do believe I'm saying it wrong. Hanakotoba. I believe that's how you say it. Someone please send me a voice note so I can make sure I'm saying it right. I don't want to be disrespectful. It is associated with qualities such as dignity, a love for nature, perseverance, and sublime. In Chinese culture, the magnolia is considered to be a flower that represents nobility and purity. Magnolia flower tattoo. So if Shelby was to get a tattoo, or any of those women were to get a tattoo of the magnolia, I'm going to give you that definition as well after I take my sip. Keep my throat moist so I can continue to talk. A magnolia flower tattoo means endurance, which of course spoke to me on a biblical term too, because we're encouraged to endure, and that's what character is built off of, is endurance, vitality, which is life, and longevity. I read that and I was like, okay, I'm getting a magnolia. I'm getting a magnolia tattoo. I already have 3 tattoos, and I already talked about getting another tattoo before for my ring tattoo. And I was like, maybe I get a magnolia right here. But yeah, I felt like that alone spoke to the women that are in this story. It spoke to specifically the struggles of Shelby and how she endured it, and she still was like, you know what? I'm going to, expand my family, and I'm going to work at the hospital, and I'm going to bring life into each one of these babies that I touch. And when I say bring life, as far as just like being there and to hold them and touch them and love on them. When a baby makes a journey into the world, they need caring people that are nurses and doctors and just staff overall. It's going to love on them and touch on them and make sure that they're holding them delicately. It's a very delicate time when a baby comes in the world. So when I saw her working there, it made sense, but I was also mad at her because I was just like, what are you doing on your feet? But her thing was about being able to have life and to be there to witness life. So I thought that was awesome. Longevity, I also felt that it spoke to her name going forth, because Anel and Sammy had already talked about naming their son or daughter Shelby, which that is a unisex name. And so I was like, wow, okay, that makes sense that name would still go on, Longevity. And then her son, of course, Jackson Jr., that's Legacy. And then, of course, Clary sharing her story, because I remember, and it spoke so much to me, like I said, her emotional breakdown that she had at the funeral when Marlon says, how is he going to know? How is Jack Jr. going to know everything that his mom went through for him to be here? How is he going to know her? And then you go, you fast forward to this Easter picnic and you see Clary giving a fairy tale story to Jack Jr., keeping the legacy alive, keeping her name alive, the longevity of who she was. So when I read that about what a tattoo represents, I was like, that makes so much sense to this movie. The tattoos, it says that they represent people who have a lot of endurance in life and can withstand, dig this, guys, and think about all the women in that story that can withstand a lot of pressure and suffering and stand still. And still stand. They also mean that you hope to live a long and happy life. And this was the dream that Shelby had shared during her salon visit while prepping for her wedding. I loved it. I loved it. Laura Lee Barbie said, I'm going to give my character a magnolia tattoo. Do it, sis. Do it. Do it. Yes, do it. I want to see this character. I want to see this character. You got to tell me. You got to show me. I want to see this. Character analysis, and actually, looks like we don't have to do a part 2 because we are at the end. I'll probably borrow my daughter's notes for our next conversation. Character analysis. The use of mirror and reflection is so key. The mom looking in the mirror at herself at the funeral. That's what really did it. She was like, oh my God, I got to get myself together. And then she looked at herself and it was like, boom, it just like all hit her. It's so very essential in different parts of that movie. Go back and look at it. Different parts when the mirror is being used at the salon. The emotional roller coaster that Marlene had was, like I said, so accurate. No parent wants to bury a child before them. Almost each character experiences a character arc. So next conversation, we're going to talk about how to value a minor character, and I'm hoping to also briefly talk about a character arc. But just real quick, a character arc is whenever you have a character that kind of like starts off right here, and then they go through a situation, and then once the situation is over, you kind of like see that character change, or you should, or you may just see the character go right back to being the same. And many of us, we can think of people in our own lives who have been impacted by this pandemic. Like, who wasn't and who isn't still being impacted by this pandemic? When some people say the pandemic is over, fine, but there's still people who are, undergoing situations from it. Nonetheless, a lot of people got impacted, but we can also see that some people still remain the same. Some people changed, and some people remained the same. Some people got worse. And I'm just saying personality-wise. Some people it had no effect on them. They were just like, stuff happens. I'm still gonna be a crappy person. Or, you know, stuff happens and it made me value life differently. And I love how no matter how important or major a character was in Still Magnolias or how minor a character was, they had a change. Spud was not a huge character in this movie, guys. But we saw him have a change. We saw him get a job. We saw him become more affectionate with his wife as far as just being more warm. And we saw him attend the funeral. We saw him attend the picnic. In fact, without him being there, they wouldn't have been able to put a nail into the truck, because the truck was the one that took her there. And then a motorcycle. We didn't see the son at all. Like maybe once in the movie. Once definitely. He drove Sammy, the bunny, on the back of the motorcycle. And my kids were like, yeah, because if he hadn't been there, I had this conversation with them first. If he hadn't been there, then the bunny wouldn't have had a ride to the hospital. I was like, you're right. So you see a change. It doesn't have to be like, oh my God, significant drag down. Oh my God, dynamic, and I'm going to fall over because it was such a significant change in the character. You just have to really be able to pay attention to those small things. And I love how in the movie Still Magnolias, almost each character that they presented to us as the audience had a character arc. They had a change, especially after Shelby died. It made them value life differently. We see Spud get a second salon for Truvy, and she was like, oh my God, you made me a chain. I was like, yes, he did. And I love it because he found a value for his wife that he didn't have at first. The son felt like he was involved. He was there at the picnic when before he was rebelling and he wasn't there. We see instead of Annelle coming with her big gospel of encouragement, she comes, like I said, it's no insult to her. It's just, you know, everyone's a little different, and there's at least one in the bunch, like I said, who does that. We see her just kind of be honest and be like, well, imagine carrying this baby for 9 months. And, you know, with her husband, I think he cussed that she didn't like hold him hostage on it, you know, like she did earlier. So we see her becoming more human in her religious walk and her spiritual walk, right? And there are some comments, and I don't want to ignore you guys. Aetna said, yes, I enjoyed the movie too. I love the way you break down each part of the movie. Awesome job. Thank you. Purple Concert said, if I watch the movie again, I will need a drink and some tissue. Come on now. Yes. The Laura Lee Bari said, thank you so much. It was very helpful to me, your talk. Thank you. Purple Concert said, that was awesome. The Laura Lee Bari said, please post this to your page because you made many points that I'd like to make a note of. Awesome. I definitely will. I definitely will. And I think the only thing that I do want to say last is that it was Easter again. When we see at the very end of the movie, it's Easter again. I love you too, Aunt Etna. The importance of tickled pink. I love it when Annelle comes to her and asks, you know, because Annelle has a very kind of like aggressive, pushy personality to a certain extent as far as her beliefs. And she asked her if she could name their child Shelby. And she said, what would be tickled pink? And I love it because at first, Marlene really didn't value pink. But after her death, she valued pink different. And that was Shelby's favorite color. And the mother said, that's how it should be. Life goes on. Keeping her name alive. That's how it should be. Life moves forward. That's how it should be. Gifts by SierraJules.com. Thank you so much for joining. And we see once again that it's Easter. And that was important to me because she got married like right around Easter time. And now we see that Annelle is about to have her baby right at the Easter time. And one of my kids, my son, he was like, oh, it's her wedding anniversary technically. I was like, yeah, it is. And it's also the birth of this baby that's coming. And I thought that was just so significant and so beautiful. I love that you have very different, colorful characters. They did a great job with this as far as having the character treatment. It was awesome. They stayed true to the Southern heritage, as my daughter said, and culture. And one of the things that I love, this is my last point, I love that this movie really was dedicated to the strength and endurance of Ma Lin in order for that community to keep functioning. I thought it was amazing. I was like, wow, you know, not only was Shelby so key and integral to this community as much as Ma Lin was. So when we come back together again, I'm going to talk about how to value a minor character. We're going to talk about the role of characters once again. Like I said, possibly using my daughter's beautiful, colorful notes. Look at this, guys. Isn't this awesome? This is called paying attention during class. I'm telling you. Now, granted, this is not a slight at any of my other kids, because I had a 1.5-year-old that was acting up and doing a whole lot and walking back and forth. And my older 2 boys were trying to make sure that he was doing the right thing while they were keeping an ear to the tube and listening. And my other ones, they learn by not having notes. And they just remember stuff really well. This one right here, you know, she and I are huge note takers, and so she took the notes, and I was like, yay, someone got some notes. And yeah, so we'll go through that later about the importance of the minor character, how to expand on a minor character, but without making them a major character, right? Because you don't want your minor character to become your focus, because then the minor is no longer minor, they're now major. But I'm really excited about that. I woke up, at 4 something this morning. My husband can attest to that. And I just woke up and I was like, and he was like, what are you okay? Everything okay? I was like, yeah, I'm okay. Just writing those notes. I can't, and the ideal strikes, God drops it down, and it's like, I got to write it, and I write it in my notes in my phone. So I'm looking forward to being able to talk about it. I wanted to talk about it today, but I really wanted to dedicate this time just to the movie review of Still Magnolias, one of my favorite movies. I'm talking about the classic, the original one. Like I said, there's nothing against the plays, nothing against the remake. I believe that they all have value, they all have worth. But that original one, guys, I'm telling you, amazing. Amazing. Yes, write it down. Yes, I'm a note taker. I've always been a note taker. I was that person that was front row in church writing notes. I'm that person front row in the college classrooms, undergrad and grad school, writing notes. And then when we watch stuff here at the house, I'll pause. Some kids don't like it because everyone learns different. So some kids, they just learn through the continuous voice or narration of the teacher that's on. And so they're cool. They're like, I'm getting it all in. They don't have to write any notes. Me, on the other hand, I'm like, pause. Wait, what did they say right there? Rewind. And I know, like I tell the kids, when you go to grad school, you go into undergrad, whatever, and they write it on the board, write it down. Write it down. Write it down. Write down what they say. Write down what's on the board. It's so important. It's so important because it's going to be on the test. If it's written on the board, you know it's going to be on the test. If they say it more than likely it's going to be on the test too. But it's just good to know too. And I go back and I look at the notes, and it's refreshing, and it's just good stuff. I love notes. I love notes. I can't help it. So I have a note taker right here. And like I said, everybody learns different. It doesn't take away anything from any of my other kids. I'm like, as long as you're learning it, that's what matters. I can't force you to learn it like I do. And I don't want to learn it like you do, because we each learn it different. Like I said. Hey, we just had a 360. It all goes back to personality. Building characters with different personalities. And that's what I loved about this movie. Each one of these characters had different personalities. Me and my children, my husband, we all have different personalities. My mom and I, we have different personalities. My aunt and I, we have different personalities. We all have different personalities. And it's amazing to me how they grasped that. And they took hold of it and they mastered it in this movie. So if anyone is writing a storyline for Instagram, you're writing something for your own personal book, and you're going, how do I write characters that are different, that sound different, that behave different, that have a different mindset? Study that movie, Still Magnolias, with tissue, and like someone said earlier, with a drink. You may need it, and it may not be coffee, it may be bourbon, it may be vodka, I don't know. We are adults here. But really study that story. Look at each one of those characters. From the brothers, and I don't have their names, to the husbands, the spouses. Just really study those characters. And you're going to see how to be able to create characters that are different. It doesn't mean so much like modeling your characters after them, if that's what you have to do in order to start. I understand. But nonetheless, if you can be inspired and take your own life experiences and just mix it all together and create your own funky characters, do it. Do it. That movie right there, it's amazing. It's a masterpiece. I don't know if they knew it was going to be a masterpiece when they produced it, but it is. So that's all I got for you guys. I thank you so much for being with me. Thank you so much, Atlanta Falcons Barbie dolls, for joining. Listen to this on rewind, replay. You know I'm old school with the rewind VHS days. 80s and 90s girl right here. All right. So I just want you guys to be able to enjoy this Saturday. Enjoy it as best as you can. We're here cold, but wherever you are, I hope that it's warm. If not, do what we're going to be doing, which is grab plenty of blankets and bundle up. Enjoy your Saturday, guys. This is RK. I love you guys. You are my IG family. I'm looking forward to seeing your story and how you are able to create different characters with different voices and different personalities. Have an amazing day today. Bye, guys.